So that's the topic for discussion today, systematic literature review. And I will start with this. As Aristotle says, the secret of success is to know something nobody else knows. Research is done to find something new. And those of us have completed PhD, we all have sweated, right, during the final Viva session to show something new, a new knowledge contribution or new methodological contribution, or something contribution to the context, practical or managerial areas. So when you do research, basically you do research because there has to be some kind of problem there. It could be in the industry, it could be in the nation, or could be in the world stage. Something that bothers us, something that disturb us, something that we are concerned of, which is troubling us. So that kind of problem is there, and the problem is there because there is no solution. So once somebody does research and find out something new, a solution to a problem, that becomes a success because nobody else knows about it. So I will start with a simple definition of systematic literature review. Basically, it is a review of a clearly formulated question that uses systematic and explicit method to identify, select, and critically appraise relevant research. So that's what I'm going to show you. How can we identify, select, and select the kind of relevant research, and we do a critical review for the purpose of clarifying, identifying, clarifying, and defining research problem, and subsequently conducting a very good literature review. So basically, it has two steps in systematic literature review. In first step, we basically create a structured question to guide the review. And then in the second step, then we perform through search of literature for relevant papers. So I will leave it for a while on this topic first. Let me cover some basic topics before I move into detail of it. But my purpose of today's talk is like this. I want participants to be like that after the session. Basically, reading papers are not something very exciting, not something very good. When we start reading paper, after reading 1 or 2 pages, we tend to stop reading it. Then we come back after some time and reading for a few pages, we feel bored, you know. But somehow, when we do research, we have to read papers and we have to review papers. And then all of us, we have experienced it. Once we have finished reading one paper, and then we started reading another paper, we tend to forget what we have read in the first paper. And then when we move to the third paper, we cannot remember what we have read in the first 2 papers, and it continues. And the more we read, the more confused we become. And that is the purpose of actually doing the literature review. The more confused you are, the better. That will create some sort of inquisitive minds in us, and we'll try to be critical and systematic in finding answers to a persistence problem that we have. So I want the participants to be like this, thinking or pondering over how can we solve a problem. Research in a simple term defined in many different ways. I have compiled a few of the definitions for you, and I'm very sure you all are familiar with it. Research could be a voice of discovery, a journey, an attitude, an experience, a method of critical thinking, a careful critical inquiry in seeking parts of principles. And in a scientific way, we say it is a scientific and systematic search for pertinent information on a specific topic, okay, to arrive at a dependable solution. There are many different definitions of research in there. This is what we see for science people. Science and engineering, the research usually looks like that. But for social science, is something else. It's different. So in a very organized definition, we say research is an organized, objective, and systematic process to study a particular problem that needs a solution. And that's what I want the participants to be always careful of. When we do research, there must be a problem in hand. If there's no problem, there's no research warranted, no research is needed. It requires a lot of time, you spend a lot of money, you need a lot of stamina and many things to conduct the research. So it has to be something purposeful. There must be a problem in hand. Something that I like the definition here, I put it in red. Implicit question plus explicit answer plus data to answer the question. That is research. Okay? The rest I'm not going to leave. I'll leave it for you. Any one of you interested to get the slides, you can WhatsApp me or you can email me. I will send you the slides. The slides will be also available to Prof. Rizal. Anybody wants to get from him also can get from him, or you can get it from him. Now, what is research and why we do research? Research, as we defined earlier, basically research again, even though solution to a problem could be there, but may not be adequate, may not be relevant, could be outdated, so research again. Research for new idea, research is to search for new answers to an old question, is to question the existing answer of a question and search for new answers. Why we do research? Because social realities evolve and change. As we see COVID-19, things have changed so drastically. Definitely, there are many researches to be required in many fields because of the new realities, or that's what you call the new normal, right? The new normal. And because of the ideas evolve and change, and also solution to a problem is always contestable. The corona that we are having now, it is not the first corona, right? This is the third one. We had it before too, SARS, and there's another one. We had it. And we had solutions. But then when this third corona came in, even though it is corona, but we don't have a solution. So the solution that we have is contestable, so we need new solution to it. Let me clarify some other issues. For example, like what is not research. Sometimes we conduct a certain research, certain thing that we think that we are doing a research, but actually we are not. Just collecting facts or information with no clear purpose, it is not a research. Research must have a clear purpose and objectivity. Reassembling and reordering facts and information without interpretation, that is not research. You just collect the data, compile it, and arrange it nicely without interpretation. It is not a research. Once you collect the data, interpretation is required. As an esoteric activity with no or little relevance to everyday life. Esoteric means, as we know, if anything that helps only, benefits only few people, only few people. So if you are doing something that benefits only few people, that is not a research. Research has to be done in a comprehensive manner so that it benefits many in the society. And sometimes also we try to get our product or idea noticed. That is also not research. For example, we are doing advertising and all that. That is definitely not research. This is conceptualizing a research study. We will have a title of research that will tell you exactly what you want to do. It's a good title written, then people will know from the title what kind of research we like to do. We'll have purpose statement, we have research question, research objective, and hypothesis. This is very important. Now, the problem or the challenge for researcher is finding out the quality information with the highest value, which will bring the highest benefit and outcome for decision making. So finding quality information with highest value is a challenge for researcher. With digital age, it is easy for us to find papers. In our time, I still remember, when I did my MBA, as many senior colleagues also online. When I was doing my MBA at USM to do the MBA thesis, I had to serve 2 USM libraries. Then I traveled to Kuala Lumpur to UM library, UKM library, and UKM library just to search for papers. And after spending 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, sometimes we did not get even one paper. So sometimes we spend 8 hours, 10 hours a day in the library and found out only 2 or 3 papers. That's how the life was. But now life is very simple. With one just click, you can get hundreds of papers online available for you. But again, we have to know how can we screen and find out the quality kind of publication that would be relevant and useful for our study. And that's why I'm going to share some of my experiences with you. The sources of information are many, not only research papers. It comes from intuitions, experience, research, as well as your authority, specialty in the area. And that's why whenever we encounter a problem, what we do most of the time, we definitely come back to our institution. We consult with experienced people. We start some review of past research, and then we will consult some experts in the area. So these would be four very relevant sources whereby we can obtain quality information for our research. Now, let us slowly move into the literature review. Why do we do a literature review? First of all, we'd like to conduct a preliminary research for existing material, to organize valuable ideas and findings, to identify other research that may be in progress, to generate research ideas, and to develop critical perspective. And that's what we are going to do today. At the end of my session, inshallah, I strongly believe you will have something new that will help you to do systematic or critical literature review that will help you to shape your research, either it is review or any kind of research. There's some more ideas are there. Literature review also provides up-to-date understanding of the subject and its significance. It helps you to identify kind of research method that is used. So that will help you to shape your research, what kind of research method you'd like to use. You will be also getting views and from research experts in the field. It will help you to formulate research question and your research direction. And also definitely it provides a basis for subsequent stages of your research. This is what Saunders et al. Has suggested how literature review process should be conducted. So it starts with research question and research objective, as you can see on the screen. As you know, research is only conducted when we have a research problem in hand. We have to identify, review, and then we have to define the research problem correctly. Once we have that, then the research problem will be translated into a few research questions or research objectives. And that's why anytime we'd like to publish paper, you can see all publication of paper required keywords in the paper at the end. 5 keywords is required. Those keywords are very important. That are the parameters that help you to identify research papers online. Okay, so we have research problem and research objective that help us to move to define parameters. Then we move to generate keywords. From there, we conduct search, we obtain literature. We evaluate literature whether it is going to be essential, something beneficial, something useful for us. Then we decode them. And then we start drafting the review. And it continues many times until and unless we have completed the critical review of literature. So this process is a continuous process. Here you can see only 3 rounds, but definitely there are many rounds. So for PhD, if you are doing a PhD or thinking of doing a PhD, the minimum requirement is 200 papers in the reference list. From 200, personally, I would expect that you have 40 papers in heart. 40 papers. Latest 40 papers in heart. Anybody asks you about latest papers, 40 papers should be on your lips. Author's name you should be aware of, and whatever materials are there in the 40 papers you should be aware of. Okay? So to do that, the cycle will continue. This is how some search strategies are there, which I have mentioned earlier, very similar. Here also the search strategies there. We start with research question, define parameters, you generate the key terms, we conduct research, obtain literature, we evaluate, we decode, and then we continue. The similar thing here I have shown you, define research parameters, then we generate keywords, plus our research, we main some ideas, and we develop some kind of method. The method that I have developed, I'm going to show you at the end of it, also goes to us like the mind mapping of ideas when you do the literature review. This one I'm going to basically skip. This is something, a critical review key purpose is there. Basically, we would like to refine our research question and objective. Those of us have completed PhDs, we know how many times we change the research questions and objectives. As we read more papers, we tend to change our ideas. Even myself, I have changed my topic of PhD for 3 times. So the final PhD topic was decided after 6 months. after changing 3 rounds of topic and titles. So once you read more papers and more papers, you tend to refine your ideas, you tend to refine objectives that you do. And also, other purpose is definitely when we read paper, you will find all authors. So we will be putting at the end suggestion for future research. That actually gives us some clue that what is being done and what is not done. So kind of research gap that helps you to define research problem is available at the end of the research. Okay? And then that is also we avoid repeating works already undertaken. If you know many research have been done, then we should not be wasting our time doing research there. Remember, it has to be something new. Any research we do, the purpose should be to create something new. It could be a new knowledge, it could be a new methodology, or something new policy direction should be coming from a research or from a research paper. And also, when you do literature review,
الإمام المهدي لماذا أوصل رسالته وأمره عن طريق السيد مقتدى الصدر؟ كان بإمكانه أن يوصل عن طريق أناس آخرون. أولا لأن السيد مقتدى الصدر منهجه وصلته.
I'm sorry, can you please switch off your microphone? Somebody microphone is on. Can you please switch it off?
يكون بابا لمخاطبة الإمام. هسه الإمام رجعت كبير مخاطبة أو عن طريق الرؤيا في المنام.
Can you switch off the microphone, brother?
الطريقة التي قابل الإمام المهدي عليه السلام بها السيد مقتدى الصدر، لكن نحن ملزمون بأن السيد مقتدى الصدر.
Prof, even the organizer can mute the mic. It has the authority. I mean, the organizer has the authority.
If you can
mute the mic.
Hold the microphone.
نكون مستحقين لزيادة البلاء والعقاب والإنسان.
Okay. All right. Sorry for the disturbance that we have. So basically, these key purposes of doing a literature review, I would like you to keep in mind. The next slide is very important. This one I want everyone to really understand, especially those of you. I'm very sure there are many very experienced researchers and authors are there online. But for you, it would be good to see, and then later you can advise me if you have a different opinion on it. This is Harvard College Library. They actually recommended that a paper should be read for 4 times. A paper should be read for 4 times. The first reading would be pre-reviewing. We read paper for the sake of reading. Just read. Do not try to understand the paper. Okay. The first one, definitely we will read the abstract. By reading the abstract, we know whether this paper is relevant or useful to me. Based on that, we may continue, we may not continue reading the paper. So in preview, in the previewing stage also, we can see whether the information in the paper would be good for us, to read and understand and read the paper. This is the first reading. Okay, that's the first reading. So if you find that the paper would be useful, then we continue to the second reading, that is annotating. In the second reading, what we do, we underline or highlight the areas that we find very relevant to our research. Okay, and remember that when we read a paper, the paper could be 40 pages long, could be 30 pages long, could be 50 pages long. We do not take everything on paper. Sometimes we may take only 1 or 2 lines. Sometimes we may take few lines, not more than 10 lines from a paper. So you might be taking something from literature, 1-2 lines, and then something from methodology, 1-2 lines, and some ideas from a paper, which is not really taken everything from a paper. So we will underline and highlight the areas that we feel useful or you'd like to take it during your literature review write-up. So that's the second reading. The third reading, when we read, we will summarize it. I'm going to provide you a template, how to summarize a paper. I have created a new one. I'm very sure it's going to be very useful. So that will help you to summarize a paper. Reading 40 papers and then remembering that paper is not that easy. And you don't need everything from a paper. You need only a few things from a paper, a few lines from a paper. So we have to learn that skill to summarize a paper, 30 pages or 40 pages paper into one page. So I'm going to give you and show you a template that helps you to summarize a 30 pages long paper into one page. I'm going to show you that. And then once you finish reading one paper, then you start reading the second paper. You realize you do not remember anything what you read in the first paper. So don't worry. That is very common. When you go to number 3 paper, you do not remember what you have read in paper number 1 and 2. Okay. And that will continue. And then the more paper you read, the more confused you are. Certain factors you find positive effects, certain factors you find negative effect. Certain research concluded this factor is very important, certain research concluded this factor is not important. And all those sort of things will be there when you read paper. So you become more and more confused. So what can we do then? So we have to move to the next stage. That is the 4th reading of paper. So what you do, once you read more than one paper, then we come back and read one more time to compare and contrast. Okay, so the summary template that I'm going to provide you, that will be very useful to compare and contrast between and among papers. Okay, so these are the 4 stages is required. It's very important. We need to have the skill to preview paper. That's the first reading. We need to have adequate and a good skill in annotating. That is basically underlining and highlighting the important aspects of a paper. Then we have to learn how to summarize a paper. And then definitely we have to learn how to compare and contrast. These 4 stages or 4 reading of paper is been taken into the template that I'm going to propose you. So when you read 4 papers, four times a paper 4 times, or you read more papers, this is how you are going to be. You are going to be like that. You have read 10 papers or 20 papers, and you will be start to think what is going to happen, what I'm going to do. There are so many theories are being discussed. There's so many different methodology being used. There's so many factors being identified. So what I'm going to do now? Okay, so again, we have to come back to our research problem and see which theory directly address this problem. Which theory can help me to explain this problem? Which theory may help me to clarify this problem? Okay, so there could be many theories. I'm going to show you a summary of 10 papers into one A4 paper. That's where I'm going to show you how theories can be selected or factors can be selected. A simple example could be if we do a study on customer satisfaction and customer loyalty. There could be so many factors. If you follow Parasuraman's subqual model, the 10 factors in his first paper and the next paper he got 5. But the subsequent research worldwide identifies so many other factors, so you get confused of so many factors. Which one should I take? So in our research framework, usually we'll have like 5 independent variables, not more than 5, 6. Then we may incorporate moderating, mediating a variable in the model. But again, this is how it is going to be. But personally, I believe if you are in this situation, it is very good for you. The more confused you are, the better. You will be forced to a situation whereby you start really thinking very hard. Okay, so your mind become inquisitive and you start looking for answers. Okay, so that's how it would be. Or it could be like this. You will be bombarded of so many papers, you do not know how to carry that. Okay, so this is also very common. Those of us who do research, this is very common with us. Very common that we have all that situation, or you may have this situation. Okay. Oh my God, meaning so many papers I've read and so many different ideas and so many theories, so many different methodologies. What I'm going to do? And even when I summarize a suggestion for future research, so many different suggestions are there by different kind of researchers across the globe. So what should I do now? So this is very common, and this is a situation that I would expect everyone to have, and then only you will come out with something new. Remember, as human being, we will only come out with something good when we are forced to, in a situation like this. Now, some critical perspective that we need to adopt. We need to have a skill to evaluate, or capacity to evaluate what we read. So when you read a paper, we have to have that skill to evaluate the paper. So we need to have definitely proficiency in the language of the paper written. If it is written in English, then our English has to be that proficient so that we can understand the paper. I think those of you who are with me in the session now, you will agree with me. When you read the first paper, every line we tend to open the dictionary. First time in my MBA time, even some paper when I started reading, I have to underline the words and then look for dictionary. And at that time, the online things were not available, so it was difficult. But somehow we have to have that skill to evaluate the paper. Whatever we read, we must understand. And the second skill that we must have the capacity to relate. So when you read a paper, we have to have the capacity to relate that paper to my research. These two skills are very important beside the 4 skills that I have discussed earlier: previewing, annotating, summarizing, and then comparing, contrasting. Then we need to have additional skills to develop a critical perspective on an area. There's capacity to evaluate and then capacity to relate. Now, when we do a critical review, we need to have this in our summary. Okay, first of all, we need to identify the key academic theories in that area. We have to demonstrate the current knowledge of the area. Please remember, those of you who are doing PhD or thinking of doing PhD, I need to have 40% latest papers. Okay, so if you have 200 papers at the end of your report in the reference list, then you should have 40, 40, 80. 80 papers should be based on last 5 years. So you have to have a demonstration of current knowledge in the area. Certain theories being proposed and then validated long time before. But now with the current situation, we have to see whether that theory can still apply. I have done a research on one price theory. In economics, there's a famous theory, one price theory, that argues that the price of a commodity should be the same at different places at the same time. And then I have proved that that theory is not applicable anymore in many contexts. Like in my country, we have 2 stock exchanges, and share price of 2 different companies in 2 stock exchanges at the same time is different. So the one price theory is not applicable in the context of stock market in Bangladesh. So that's what we are looking at. You have to demonstrate current knowledge of the area when you do critical literature review. You have to use clear referencing for the reader to find original cited publication. Anything that we say in literature must be supported by literature, okay, by previous research. Citation must be there. We cannot simply say something that we think or we believe or we feel, those sort of things cannot be in an academic writing. Everything must be cited. So the referencing has to be very clear. And definitely we have to learn to acknowledge people. Sometimes we take ideas from other people's research and then we tend to put it in a way like this is mine. This is wrong. Acknowledging people doesn't really make you small. You are respecting people, and it's reciprocal. If you acknowledge more of other people, people acknowledge you more because people will tend to see that you are very truthful and ethical in doing research. As we know, in social research, there are many unethical practices are there. Okay. Now, the key to a critical literature review also, we have to demonstrate what you have read, understood, and evaluate in your material. This is a common problem we find among our researchers. When we write, basically we just describe what we have read, but we do not really evaluate what we have read. So we must have some kind of evaluation of what we have read, and we have to have our own opinion into it. Okay, some weaknesses, strengths of different reading materials must be also provided there. Okay, and then we have to link different ideas to from a cohesive and coherent manner. When you write a paper or draft for thesis, we look at 2 things. One is logical sequence, and other one is a good flow. Okay, so it has to flow from one idea to another, and it has to be logical. So logical sequence has to be there, and there has to be very good flow. So when we read literature, then our thinking, our ideas that we get from reading papers has to be organized in a coherent manner, in a cohesive manner, so that your sequence is very logical in the presentation, and the flow is there. Idea flows from one to another. Connectivity is there. All right. So that's what we see in many write-up. We tend to fail to find the connection between one paragraph to another paragraph. So research or research papers, basically one piece of work. So there must be clear connection from the beginning up to the end. The flow has to be there, the logical sequence has to be there, connections has to be there. If you're ending up a paragraph, we have to make sure it leads to the next paragraph. So when you're starting a new paragraph, we have to make sure we are following up from the previous paragraph. That is very important in a critical literature review. This is something I would like to share with you so in social science research. Definitely it is guided by two things. One is philosophy, the other one is theory. Those of us who have done PhD is Doctor of Philosophy, is not Doctor of Management, you know. So some philosophical foundation must be there. And definitely every framework that you develop, there must be a theory, underpinning theory, supporting theories has to be there. So this is basically building blocks. Everything starts with ideas. So ideas are something, the raw fact and figure. From there, we develop, screen the ideas, we make it useful, relevant, it become concept. Then we break it down into small sub-concepts, become construct. Then we move forward to proposition. And once propositions are proved, then it becomes a theory. This is the building blocks of a theory. This slide is very important for social scientists to know, because there are two different approaches in literature review. One I'm going to show you afterwards. Basically, the next slide. There are two approaches we use. One we call it deductive. The other one is called it inductive. Okay. So I have more slides on this, so I will clarify. Don't worry. So when it comes to inductive, basically we start from facts and figure, and then it leads us to theory. But for deductive, we start with the theory and we explain and predict. So this is deductive approach. We start with the theory, we develop hypotheses based on the theory, we collect data and analyze data, and based on that, we accept or reject hypothesis. That helps us to explain the problem in hand. This is deductive approach. We start with the theory. So when you develop a theoretical framework in a research, then it has to be developed with support of a theory. So the theory that explains most of the framework, it becomes underpinning theory. And if one theory doesn't support the whole framework, then we need few more supporting theories. So the theory that is dominant to explain our framework would be the underpinning theory. And if any other theories are there that helps us to explain those theories, will be supporting theory. So you may have one underpinning theory, and you may have one supporting theory or a few supporting theories for a theoretical framework. This is deductive approach. This is inductive approach, totally different. We observe phenomenon, we analyze pattern and themes, we formulate relationship, and then we develop a theory. So this is basically qualitative research. That's what you do. All the qualitative research, we start with observing phenomena, and then we analyze the pattern by conducting interview, focus group, and all that. Then we formulate relationship. For there, we continue to develop theory. So this is totally contrasting thing, right? This is deductive. We start from a theory, but inductive, we end up with the theory, okay? So these two you have to remember, because when you do literature review, your mind must be very clear what really you want to do. If you want to develop a theory, then you are starting from observing the phenomenon. But if you are looking at deductive approach, then definitely you have to start from a theory. So we do literature review to identify the correct theories, and from there we proceed on, okay? If it is inductive, then we look at the phenomena, the situation, around us, and from there we start picking up ideas, and slowly we start conducting interview, focus group, and all that. Then we develop conceptual framework, and slowly we test it, and then we develop a theory. So these two slides are very important for a systematic literature review. Now, let me now zoom into specific areas of today's talk. Systematic literature review, there are three phases. The first phase, basically introductory phase, what we do here, we specify research question, we develop review protocol, we validate ReSS review protocol. Then we move into phase 2, whereby we conduct literature review. We identify relevant research. We select primary studies. Then we assess the study quality. We extract the required data. We synthesize the data. And then we move to phase 3, whereby we document the review, writing the review report, and then validate the review report. So this is basically a very good framework for a researcher to do or conduct a systematic literature review. It starts with research question. So anything we do, it must start with research question. Now, many of us, we love to watch movie. If you look at Hollywood or Bollywood movies, the first few minutes that we see basically would be the plot. The plot will be created. So that makes you like, wow, this is something going to be nice. This is something what I want to watch, you know. And your mind would be like, it's going to be interesting. So as the movie proceeds, so you'll be in the drama. So you'll be expecting something else, and you go until the end. So a literature review, a paper is actually something like this. So I used to put it this way. A research paper is basically telling and selling stories. A literature review is basically also telling and selling stories. Okay, so you are telling your story and you are selling a story to people. So in order to tell and sell the story, it has to be with logical sequence and with a good flow, all right? And that's why it has to be something very systematic. So we start with the plot. The plot is the research problem. Then we translate the research problem into research question. Then we develop the review protocol. We validate the review protocol. Then we identify the right kind of research material that is needed for me, and we extract the data from that paper, and then we continue writing our review reports. Okay. Next slide, also quite similar. Stages in systematic literature review is very similar what I have shown you earlier, a bit different but very similar. Planning the review, you are identifying the need for a review. And then preparation for a proposal for review, development of review protocol. Then stage 2, we are conducting a review, identifying the research, selecting of a selection of the studies, assessing the quality of paper, we are extracting and monitoring the progress, and then we are synthesizing or summarizing the data that we get from a paper. And finally, we develop a comprehensive summary, which I'm going to show you how.
Prof, okay. We cannot see your slide.
Oh, I see. Can you see it now? Prof, can you see it now?
No.
No, still not.
Okay.
No, sir. Actually, the layout is changed.
Okay, let me. Okay. Let me. Okay, stop presentation and I will upload again.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's better.
Is there any option to switch the presentation?
I think someone was trying to present, so that's why I got into trouble. I think I was out. So just give me a minute. I'm loading. Okay. Can you see it now?
Not yet. Yes.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. All right. This is the second slide on the systematic literature review. It's very similar to earlier one. So basically, we have to plan for a review. We have to have a research problem and research question in hand. And then we have to have parameter and keywords so that we can conduct review, identifying the right kind of research paper, you know, then we assess the quality of the paper, and then we extract the data from the paper. As you remember that we said we have to read paper for 4 times, remember? We said review the paper, annotating, then summarizing, and then finally compare and contrasting. So we have to identify, in that stage actually we can do 4 reading, we can do this conducting a review stage can be done, okay, while we read the paper. Now I want to show you something else. This is something that I would like to remind you. When you are conducting literature review, you have to remember the digital age. You know, everybody is with social media now. You can see the first one, the second one, the family 4, father, mother, and 2 kids with the phone and tablets and all that. And you can even see the dinner table. The mother, you know, the mother-in-law is presenting food, but everybody is with the phone. So this is the kind of situation we have. So we have to be very careful. Anything that we write is subjected to review with Turnitin and Etiquette and many other softwares available now. Let me share with you a true case of a Malaysian university. I don't want to mention which university. Okay, it happens to be my friend who has copied a paper online and changed the title a bit and put his supervisor name as #1 and his name #2 and few other from his laboratory as co-authors and published the paper. And after 3 months, the original author of the paper complained to Scopus that his paper has been copied. So that Scopus then notified my friend that you have copied the paper, and then the original author demanded $3,000 compensation. He said, if you pay $3,000, I will somehow forgive you, and then I will withdraw my complaint from Scopus. But these guys was not very serious, and they did not want to do that. And after that, the punishment came from Scopus. The first author was banned from publication for 10 years. 10 years, and he was a professor in Malaysian University. He was a professor, banned from 10 years from publication from Scopus Index Journal. And then the second author was banned from 5 years, and the subsequent, the following authors also banned for 5 years. So you got to be careful what you say in a paper, okay, in a literature review. Anything you take from people, please remember you have to give the credit to them, okay? There's something also I would like to remind you with the current situation that you have, doing research on conventional, traditional way may not be that helpful anymore, because now we are saying 65% of future jobs are not available today. So we have to do something future-oriented, so the areas that are very dominant now, next few years or next 5 to 10 years, these are the jobs going to be available. So if you are doing a PhD, thinking of doing a PhD, if you are writing a paper, publishing paper, then you have to find something like that, so that your paper would be still useful, is still relevant. People will still think of reading your paper and finding something new. If you are still doing something what people used to do before, I think it's not going to be helpful anymore, not going to benefit the society anymore, okay? So if you do a good systematic literature review, follow this process, this is what you are going to have, Definitely every one of us, we would like to see that, wow, I know I have done it. After struggling of 9 months or 1 year, I had managed to get something very concrete. I have got the relevant theories to frame my research. I got the kind the right kind of variables identified. Now I understand what kind of research methodology I have to adopt for my study. All sort of thing will be there, and that's how you are going to be like that. So from earlier, as I showed you earlier, this is the kind of situation you may be at the beginning when we start your literature review and in the midst of literature review. But if you are doing a very good job, this is what you are going to be, at the end of a successful, systematic, and critical literature review. All right, let me now go to the template that I have developed and tested and validated with my PhD students who work it very well. A research paper is usually start with like 10 pages. Social science is start with 10 pages long up to 40, 50 pages long, okay? So how can you summarize a paper? That is the question of many researchers. I read the paper, but I do not know what to take from the paper. This is very common. I read a paper, but I don't know how to summarize a paper. I read a paper, but I'm not sure what is important in this paper. So I have created this template to make your life easier to summarize a paper. So you can see the blocks there. First block, I put research problem from a research paper. When you read the first few paragraphs, you will already understand what kind of research problem they try to handle. So you just write in a sentence what kind of research problem they try to tackle. And then when you move to literature review of that paper, then you will find what are the factors being identified by previous researchers. So you list down all the factors. And then you look at what are the theories being used or what are the hypotheses tested. You list it down. How did they collect data and where did they get the data? That one you have to list down under number 4. and then what kind of analysis they use, analysis method. Say, for example, they may use SPSS, some may use PLA, some may use Stata, some people may use in vivo, some people may use Atlas and all that. There are many different methods applied. Why we need that? Because in the area of research that I'm doing it now, once I read the previous papers, if I read 200 papers, and we see the kind of methods being applied, that will provide me some kind of very good direction of what kind of methodology should be good for me, for my research, okay? And then next stage, we move to findings of this research, the paper that you are reading. This is going to be current findings, Number two, previous research finding based on the previous research. But this one is the current paper that you have read. So from this paper, you identify what factors found to be significant and what are the factors found to be not significant. And finally, very important one, suggestion for future research that provides some kind of research gap that helps us to identify, define, refine, the research problem in hand. So I have given these 7, in a template, 7 blocks. You can easily summarize 40 pages long paper into 1 page only. Okay, I'm going to show you some sample how it is done. This is the template that I have explained you. Later, I think Prof. Rizal will allow me to open up for question and answer. If you need any clarification, I will, inshallah, try to clarify how can you use this template. So as you see in the middle, title of the paper should be there. At the bottom also, I give an example. The reference should be also there. So when you start writing literature review, basically you have to just look at this page. You don't have to read 40 pages paper anymore. You don't have to flip through page after page and finding out what is important, what is not important. This is already there in 1 page. This is the template. Let me show you how we summarize a paper into 1 page. This is one paper. You can see written by Akisa et al. 2015. And the paper title was Effect of Innovation of Bank Performance of Electronic Bank Services. And it is from Social and Behavioral Sciences Journal. And this paper was how many pages long? 16 pages long paper. But I have only summarized it into 1 page. Okay, one of my PhD students, Dr. Ulu Washei, helped me to do this slide, okay, to do the presentation for today. You can see that we have identified the research problem they tried to tackle. We look at previous research findings, and then we have summarized the kind of variable used, and then we have identified where did they get the data, how did they get the data, what kind of method used for analysis, and then we also summarize what kind of findings they have and what do they recommend. So this is 16 pages long paper. Now we have summarized into 1 A4 paper. And that's what something very new, and this is my own creation. And I have tested it with my PhD students, and it seems to be working very well. The students find it very easy. Life become very easy to summarize and remember paper now. This is second paper being summarized. Similar way of analyzing, summarizing a paper. So remember, when we say a systematic review or critical review, or the skills required for you to have review, we say you have to have skills to evaluate, and then you have to have the skill to relate what you find. So that's everything is here. So when you read for 4 times, the first reading was previewing, second review was annotating. You underline all that. That's what I've taken, and this is the third reading whereby I do the summary of a paper. Okay, and then once this is ready, what I do, let me show you. This is shown as 10 paper summary, and finally what I do, this is summary of 10 research papers. So remember, each paper is summarized into 1 A4 paper. 1 A4 paper, right? 30 pages long paper in 1 A4. Then 20 pages paper in 1 A4. So I have now in the slide, I will share with you the slides. I have 10 paper summary into 10 A4 paper. And now we have summarized 10 A4 paper into 1 A4 paper. So now the slide that you see is the summary of 10 papers. 10 papers, huh? 10 papers. This is summary of 10 papers. So what I do, once one of my PhD student finish summary of 10 papers, then I will ask him to come and sit down with me. Then I will have debate with me. So we'll argue, we debate. So the debate. So that's what we do, and then we'll try to come out with some kind of research gap that is being identified. So if you look at it here, the theories there are from 10 theories, 10 papers. The theories are there basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You see the 10 theories there. Definitely, I don't need 10 theories. I may just use 1 or 2 or 3 theories to frame the framework for my research. Methodology also, we can see there are so many different methodology used, but it's a similar field. It is all about risks and bank performance, business risks and performance of a bank. But there are many different approaches being used to conduct this research. And then I have summarized all the findings there. You can look at all the summary of findings, the variables it being listed down. There's so many variables there, but definitely I'm going to choose only 5 or 6 depending on the kind of problem I have in my hand. And you can see the suggestion for further research, whereby all the previous researchers, the 10 papers that we have read, these are the suggestions given by them. That is actually giving you the tips, actually what kind of direction should I take for my own research. So this is 10 pages summary. So what I do, I prefer to do is the student has to do another round. So he will read another 10 papers, then another round 10 papers. So he has to go for 4 rounds. When he go for 4 rounds, he will read 40 papers, 10, 10, 10, 10, 40 papers. And then once he read 40 papers, he is going to have 4 pages summary. This is 10 pages, 10 paper summary into 1 page. He will have another page like that, 10 article summary, and then he will have another 2. So he has now 4 pages summarizing 40 articles. Then I will ask the student to compile 4 A4 papers into 1 A4 paper, meaning that 1 A4 paper going to have summary of 40 research articles. Okay, so now imagine you have 1 page, 1 A4 paper, whereby you have summary of 40 research papers, and you take it lie down on the bed, look at it, you will be amazed to see how it is. That is going to create your mind map kind of thing in your brain. So you know exactly what are the theories being used, what are the methodologies being used, what are the variables been considered, found to be significant, what are the future research suggestions given by the authors, so the gaps being identified. So with that 40 papers reading and summary, you can now easily develop a theoretical framework. Even with 10 papers, the page that I have given you in front of me now, or in front of you, with this you can easily develop a theoretical framework and then construct hypothesis. So once you have the theoretical framework, then we clear of research is already there for social science. Okay, so that theoretical framework is a reflection of the kind of research problem you have. That theoretical framework is the reflection of research question that you have constructed. And from that theoretical framework, you are going to construct hypothesis. Okay, and then you are going to design questionnaire, and then you are going to proceed to further activities of research. So this is something, a system that I have developed, and when Prof Rizal has requested me to share my ideas on systematic literature review, I thought let me share something completely new, something very different, something very distinct, something very special that is developed by my own self. Okay, so I think I want to end up my presentation with this, and would leave it to Prof Rizal, and I hope participants will be allowed to ask a few questions. Prof Rizal, now I would like to pass it to you, Prof.